Hello viewers, my name is Drew and this is Team Player Gaming. If you're interested in the teamwork aspects of tabletop RPGs, you've come to the right place. Today I've got a little bit of a different video for you guys. With the new Mwangi Expanse book out, I figured I'd better at least try to do a lore video. Note that this is my first ever lore video, so if I butcher any names, please let me know down in the comments. Some of you guys might be expecting an overview of the book. However, that's not what I'm going to be doing today, for two reasons. Number one, there are plenty of those out there already. If you want that kind of video, you can go to Black Dragon Gaming or some other channel. You can check out his channel and others in the channel section of my channel. The second reason is that I'm a small channel. I don't get the books early like some other channels, so I'm a bit behind. So rather than waste my time making a video that a lot of you guys have seen something similar to, I'm just going to dive right into the lore. This channel is all about teamwork, so I'm going to be talking about groups of people in my lore videos. I generally won't go into too much detail on the history of Golarion. If you want that kind of video, Golarion in depth is who you want. He's a relatively small channel like me, but he explains lore so well. The link to his channel and Black Dragon Gaming's channel is in the description. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about the Alijae Elves of the Mwangi Expanse. In order to understand a culture, you have to know its history. So that's what I'll be talking about first. The Alijae Elves were once part of a bigger elf society called the Alijae, along with the Alijae and the Alijae. If this video does well, I may end up talking about the Alijae and the Alijae in future videos. The elves that would eventually become the Alijae were the first to break off from this large elf society. They broke off from this society because of an ancient prophecy involving the city of Nagisa. This city is also now known by the nickname the White City. The Alijae Elves believed that this city was a place of great evil. Most of the elves wanted to stay away from it. However, the Alijae Elves wanted to go there and cleanse it. They also wanted to write down the prophecy to prevent losing any part of it. Both of these were very unpopular opinions. So much so that it got to the point that the Alijae decided to leave and form their own society. There may not have been that many of them, but they were able to work together to find the city. After the elves found the city, they found markings. Markings that they later found out were caused to demon lords and other fell powers. Once they figured that out, they decided to set up camps on the outskirts of the city. They then started their long mission of cleansing the city. It was very difficult in the beginning to cleanse the pyramids. In the beginning, they could only cleanse the smaller pyramids. The two main reasons for this were, number one, their relatively small number. It is definitely hard to do something of this magnitude when you don't have many people to do it with. The second reason is that they had to be extremely careful. Each of the pyramids had a kind of gateway to the abyss at its center. This means that the elves have had to deal with all kinds of evil abominations that are not only coming through the portals, but are also drawn to them, like moths to a flame. Because the group of Alijae Elves were small, and literally could be wiped out at any time, they wanted to write down their history in a way that wouldn't be lost to the generations easily. So they wrote a poem on the walls of the White City. This meant that if the Alijae Elves were ever wiped out, others could take up their mantle, whether they be elves or not. As time passed, the Alijae learned other ways of writing down information. With the advent of writing came books, which are now being held in special rooms in the cleansed pyramids. The Alijae even eventually learned how to create special masks. These genealogy masks allowed the Alijae to record their own personal history to be shared with their descendants in verbal form. Overall, I would say that the Alijae history is one of teamwork by necessity. Their task is still not complete, so the Alijae Elves still live in Nagisa. The White City, as it's been nicknamed, lies east of the Badonge River in the Mwangi Expanse. It mostly consists of large white pyramids of an as yet unknown elven design. While these pyramids are gorgeous on the outside, inside they are much more sinister than any outsider could possibly imagine. Inside each pyramid lies a totem to a different demon or devil. This drives fiends, evil fae, and other dark creatures to them in droves. As a person gets closer and closer to the center of the city, the more powerful the demons these pyramids are dedicated to, and the evils that are drawn to them. The pyramids in the heart of the city are dedicated to the demon lords. This is why the Alijae Elves are here, to drive these evils away from their city and the surrounding area, to cleanse the area so that the evil has one less place to go in the material plane. However, due to their small number, they cannot guard every entry point into the city at all times. This has led a group of outsiders to establish a black market of sorts that they call the Collaborative Interest Trading Posts. I'm not going to go into too much detail on them, but those that have been denied access by the Alijae but still wish to plunder the city, seek them out. Buisela is the largest stronghold of the Alijae. It is here that most of the structure of the Alijae culture happens. It is known as Scholar's Haven by outsiders who have been allowed in. This outpost serves as a library, archive, training ground, and vault. Unlike other Alijae outposts, this one follows a strict set of rules and is controlled by a strict schedule. For some Alijae, this goes against everything they learned growing up in other outposts. However, for the elves to achieve their goal of cleansing the city, this structure is essential. It is here that the archives are maintained and the plans are made as to how to push slowly toward the heart of the city. Now that we've talked about the city that the Alijae call home, it's time to talk about their society. In order to complete their task of cleansing the city, the Alijae need information on demons and devils that is simply not available in their city. Therefore, they send as many people as they can out to gain this information. This means that many of the Alijae can't be a part of their society through conventional means. Instead, the Alijae use a system of coded messages, which are managed by archivists that are settled in the outskirts of Nagisa, where the Alijae first settled. Because of this system, all Alijae adults have a say in how the society is run and can send any information they gain back to the city without having to worry. Unfortunately, this also keeps those Alijae out in the world away from their families in Nagisa. Outsiders might not believe it when they see how far the Alijae are willing to travel for knowledge, but they place a strong emphasis on family. They do not consider others in the Alijae to be family. It is only a connection through blood that one is deemed worthy of having a genealogy mask. However, the Alijae do have ways of binding others to their families. Marriage is the obvious one, but there are others as well. However, few outside the community of the Alijae go through such rituals. They generally fear that it will bind their souls to devils or other evil outsiders that a family may have made deals or contracts with in the past. The Alijae don't really worship any unifying deity or aspect of nature. They consider faith to be more of a personal matter and rarely bring it up, much less question it. Some Alijae have even gone as far as to make pacts with demons and other dangerous outsiders to gain some power or knowledge that will help their people survive. This, unfortunately, has made many foreigners believe that all Alijae are demon worshippers of some kind. This is simply not the case. Some Alijae do follow more traditional deities. The cult of the Redeemer Queen has a strong following among the artisans of the Alijae who use the cleansed pyramids as a sort of workshop, but isn't referred to as a cult by the Alijae. Other popular deities among the Alijae include Desna, Iori, and Nethys. The Alijae Elves are very informal when it comes to tradition, and other elves are appalled and bemused by that. Their culture revolves around cleansing and safeguarding Nagisa, and it shows. Their traditions have morphed over time and continue to do so. Alijae traditions often change to suit current needs. This lack of continuity has become to be accepted by the elves as a better way to stay connected even when much of their community is off in other lands. Many Alijae have an interest in cooking and alchemical pursuits, though in most cases not both. Their culture places high honor on archival methods and considers them to be an art form. They place great prestige on any who practice such art, including calligraphy, tattooing, and mural painting. Master mask makers will train as many apprentices as they can, then send them back to the Alijae to add to their records. Because the Alijae Elves live in the most dangerous area of the Mwangi Expanse, they have learned to take anything that is offered them as a matter of course. This isn't blind faith, however. It is more of a belief that any knowledge or ability might help them safeguard the world from the evils that lurk in the White City, even those that others might consider to be evil powers. Unsurprisingly, this has done very little to help their reputation in the eyes of those who already don't understand them. Most Alijae will find some interest in just about any topic that comes their way, as that topic might help them in some way. If the topic in question helps their people protect the world from the horrors of Nagisa, all the better. Preserving knowledge is of the utmost importance to all Alijae Elves. Because many of the Alijae are far from home for long periods of time, many of the traditions that were founded in early Alijae history had to be scaled down, so that the elves could do them by themselves and even with outsiders. For example, for the winter solstice, the Alijae Elves would celebrate by telling the stories of their ancestors to a gathering of Alijae Elves, and enjoying hibiscus-flavored mead. But when the elves started going out into the world, they could no longer celebrate in this way. Instead, this tradition was scaled down so that the elves could celebrate on their own. Instead of drinking hibiscus-flavored mead, which is rare outside the Mwangi Expanse, the tradition was changed so that any mead would do. Also, most Alijae Elves believe that the ancestors wouldn't mind their stories being shared with outsiders as long as they don't reveal too much. But even if they don't want to tell the stories to outsiders, the tradition still allows them to tell the stories quietly to themselves or even just write them down. The Alijae Elves do not believe in an afterlife. Because all their dealings have to do with demons and other dangerous extraplanar creatures, they take no comfort in an afterlife. The Alijae believe that their lives and legacies are taken into the future by their families through their genealogy masks. But those stories are not the only ones that a mask might hold. If an Alijae Elf comes to know and trust an individual, that individual may be also honored by a recording in the mask. The Alijae Elves are relatively few in number, so every member of the community is important. Alijae half-elves are no exception. In fact, they are the ones that travel the farthest in their quest for knowledge, in order to gain knowledge that the other Alijae would not try for. Most work within factions or in adventuring parties, especially those with an interest in Nagisa or the Demon Lords. Some wear their heritage proudly, others try to hide it, and still others try to toe the line between these two. Many outsiders assume that Alijae half-elves are forced into this role. This is not the case. Alijae half-elves have many reasons to take on this role, but most just seek knowledge like any other full Alijae Elf would. The relations of the Alijae and others can be very tense. They are very cautious of outsiders, but only until the outsiders' motives can be established. They are even this way around Ekujae and Kilijae elves, despite their shared ancestry. The Alijae realize what would happen if the power that they guard fell into the wrong hands. Once motives are established, the elves make an irreversible decision. They either accept them as guests and fellow seekers of knowledge, or they condemn them as seekers of wealth and power. The Alijae elf leaders often spend days or weeks on this decision in the case of individuals, or months and even years in the case of organizations. To make this decision, the Alijae will often willingly join adventuring parties or even organizations so that they can send information back to their leaders. Of course, most people call this treachery when they learn of it, but the Alijae consider it a necessary evil in order to learn exactly who they are dealing with at any given time. The libraries of the Alijae don't have a formal name. However, both outsiders and Alijae alike call them the archives. There are very few better places to find information on the demon hordes. However, outsiders are rarely allowed inside the archives. That is because this knowledge can be a double-edged sword. Unfortunately, any knowledge that can be used to defeat a demon can also be used to aid or summon them. Therefore, in most cases, an Alijae archivist will do the research for them and present the findings. The Alijae education is, of course, focused on demon lore. However, in addition to this, all Alijae are expected to learn some form of defense. Thus, the Proving was built. The Proving is a set of circular training grounds designed for sparring, dueling, and practicing with either martial or magical prowess. Most Alijae are more comfortable with magic, especially that which defends against other types of magic, but there are those that wish to fight more physically and those who wish to combine the two. The Proving is very well hidden from all guests that enter the city, thus very few outsiders have ever seen the inside of it. Demon totems and dangerous creatures aren't all that is lurking in these pyramids. The Alijae Elves have also found many artifacts of evil. These artifacts could prove dangerous in the wrong hands. Once the pyramids are made safe, these artifacts are collected, investigated, and cataloged. They are then stored in the deepest reaches of the first pyramids that were ever cleansed, starting with the one dedicated to the Redeemer Queen, Nocticula. No one other than the most skilled and trusted archivists are allowed in these Queen's vaults, as the Alijae call them. These archivists seek to seal the powers of these artifacts permanently, destroy them, or make the object work in the Alijae's favor. When outsiders are invited into the city, they are asked to keep to places where they have been invited and to the public areas. Most of the public areas are open areas where the guests can gather for seating and can be used to gather, eat, and cook. Anyone can use these areas for any of these activities. These areas also include small lodging with more private rooms specifically for guests to the city. This allows visitors to prepare for their journey into the city, rest upon their return, and even meet with the healers and archivists of the Alijae people. The Alijae are not done cleansing the city yet, and are currently trying to cleanse the Temple of the Toad, as they have been calling it. This temple has a grotesque statue at its entrance. This huge sculpture depicts a bloated toad covered in bulging eyes and ripe pustules. It has an obscenely long tongue and is named the Eater of Filth. This statue marks the signs of dark magic from the demon lord Gagunta. Unfortunately, ever since they started cleansing this temple, they've had to deal with not only the horrors within, but also attacks from the boggards of the forest, who wish to enter the city and retake the temple. That's all we know about the Alijae Elves for now. However, this wouldn't be team player gaming if I didn't go over how well I believe that they work together. The Alijae Elves have a very interesting way of working together. Some of the elves go out into the world to find information that could be used to help their cause. Others stay behind to do the actual cleansing of the pyramids. This system has worked for the Alijae Elves so far, but it's also backfired somewhat. Because so many of the Alijae are off in other lands, the ones at home don't have enough manpower to guard their city. Some of the Alijae in other lands may need to come back, especially now. Currently, they're being attacked on two fronts, so they need as much manpower as they can get. We will see what happens in the future. There is one more thing I want to talk about before ending this video. How can you play an Alijae Elf that works with his party? Well, the Alijae are a very much intelligence-based society. Therefore, most of them are going to be intelligence-based classes. Especially alchemists and intelligence-based spellcasters, like witches and wizards. That being said, like any society, there are those that wish to pursue other forms of defense. In doing the research for this video, I found that I wanted to play an Alijae Elf Ancestors Oracle, even though I ranked Oracle pretty low on the teamwork spectrum. If you want to check out my class ranking video on teamwork, you can up in the card. Most Alijae Elves will join a party to find information about a specific topic that they're interested in, especially if it has to do with demons, devils, or the city of Nagisa in some way. Some Nagisa do have a tendency to work with demons and devils if they believe it will help their cause. This might not go over well with the party, so keep that in mind. One way that you could bond with your party as an Alijae Elf is to include them in some of your rituals. However, you should only do this if your character believes that they can trust their party enough to tell them why they joined the party in the first place. That's the other thing. The Alijae are very cautious of outsiders until their motives can be established. Therefore, the first thing you should do when joining a party is to establish the motives of every party member. It might be difficult to roleplay an Alijae Elf if one or more of your party members is motivated by wealth or power. So definitely take that into account if you want to play an Alijae Elf. All that being said, I think it would be a lot of fun to play an Alijae Elf. But I would not recommend playing one if you're new to tabletop RPGs in general. And that's going to wrap up this video. If you want to see more lore videos like this, leave a like or subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know what you think of the Alijae Elves down in the comments or on my Facebook or Twitter. Links are in the description. If you want to get videos like this early, you can check out my Patreon page. That link is also in the description. If you want to see more Pathfinder 2e related teamwork videos, you can check out these videos here. So until next time, teamwork is vital.